communal forgiveness often creates more victims. We can and should still hold others accountable for their actions or lack of action. Forgiveness does not forgetting now, does not mean denying reality or ignoring. I guess you would have had to have been hiding under a rock to miss the national conversation on forgiveness this week. We know that a police officer has been convicted of killing an unarmed black man in his own home. And we are all aware of the fact that although justice has been rendered, we still feel cheated, many of us. Because we're the hue a little bit darker, they probably would have been encased in concrete under the jail and forgotten about. Today we're going to discuss forgiveness. And I guess if we need a title, we can call it the forgiveness trap. The forgiveness trap. Lord, I ask you to work with us, make your word clear so that we can all grow and discuss these things, and to think about what forgiveness truly means. In Jesus Christ's name, that everybody say, amen. Amen. So I must be honest, I was struggling with how to present this to us all here today. I must admit that as a black man, I look at the world through a certain lens. And at times I could be a bit biased when it comes to justice. Especially when I reflect upon the history that our people have experienced here in America. And even more closer to home, how the justice system has treated our other brothers and sisters. The Bible, this holy book that we all agree that God has inspired men to write and record the testimonies of men and women around the world, it has several passages that deals with forgiveness. At the same time, it has passages that deal with justice, and mercy, and revenge, and retribution. And as Christians, we have sometimes find our place struggling with how to apply these different teachings of the Bible. Isaiah 58 says, cry out loudly, don't hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sins. They seek me day after day and delight to know my ways, like a nation that does what is right and does not abandon the justice of their God. They ask me for righteous judgments. They delight in the nearness of God. Why have we fasted, but you have not seen? We have denied ourselves, but you have not noticed. Look, you do as you please on the day of your fast and oppress all your workers. You fast with contention and strife, to strike viciously with your fist. You cannot fast as you do today, hoping to make your voice heard on high. Will the fast I choose be like this, a day for a person to deny himself, to bow his head like a reed, and to spread out sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast and a day acceptable to the Lord? Isn't the fast that I chose to break the chains of wickedness, to untie the ropes of the yoke, to set the oppressed free, and to tear off every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, to bring the poor and homeless into your house, to clothe the naked when you see him, and to not ignore your own flesh and blood? Then your light will appear like the dawn, and your recovery will come quickly. Your righteousness will go before you, and the Lord's glory will be your rear guard. Yet we see in other passages of Scripture, in Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 through 17, it says, "Therefore, God's chosen ones, holy and loving, put on heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, accepting one another and forgiving one another. If anyone has complaint against another, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so must you also forgive. Above all, put on love, the perfect bond of unity, and let the peace of the Messiah, to which you were also called in one body, control your hearts. Be thankful. Let the message about the Messiah dwell richly among you, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, and singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. And whatever you do in word or in deed, do everything in the name of the Lord, giving thanks to God the Father through him." Oh man, if I had to sum this passage up that I just read there, they want us to forgive and get on some kumbaya real quick. That's what some people are feeling right now in life. We have witnessed the young man forgive the killer of his brother. We have seen him grant his own personal forgiveness to her, seemingly console her, hug her, and make steps to move on in his life. We see the judge extend a certain level of regard for her as well. And many of us are scratching our heads, trying to figure out what kind of twilight zone we are living in. To see a sitting judge come down from the bench, to place a hand on the side of the person here who is convicted of killing somebody else, and give them a word of scripture to go in to make their stay a little bit easier and more tolerable. Have you ever seen such things done before in life? It's just a little bit jarring to see these images. Some religious groups have filed lawsuits against this judge because she is violating the separation of church and state, so to speak. Other people are upset because she, as a black woman, is now consoling a white woman who has killed a black man, and nobody can wrap their minds around how ever a mistake could be made, how you go into somebody else's apartment and shoot somebody dead. We're not going to go and try the whole trial over again right here today, but you must be aware of the logistics and how things are perceived. A friend of mine posted something on Facebook. He's a fellow colleague. He writes, "What we are seeing play out is a struggle to understand the difference between personal forgiveness and communal forgiveness. We as African Americans have been seemingly always expected to forgive immediately when wrong has been done to us. Many of us are resistant to the Protestant religion of Christianity because that's what the master was using to control us all when we were enslaved. At the same time that he's using the Bible to rebuke and to keep everybody in line, at the next minute he's saying, but you must forgive. And we would console each other. It doesn't seem like one thing lines up with another. And imagine the confusion for people living in these realities. Imagine today what we're struggling with. Goes on to state, personal forgiveness is necessary. It is how one who has been victimized wrestles the center of power back from the one who has victimized them. It liberates the victim. Communal forgiveness gives the power to the victimizer and empowers others to engage in similar behavior. Communal forgiveness often creates more victims. As such, it should be used sparingly. The family of Botham Jean gave the woman personal forgiveness. The judge, the bailiffs, and some of y'all gave that woman communal forgiveness. Biblically, the admonishment is personal forgiveness, not necessarily communal forgiveness. Slave religion has taught us to offer mass a nearly unconditional personal and communal forgiveness, but withhold both from our own people. I want us today to consider heavily the events that have transpired. And I admonish you to research your own Bibles to explore this idea of forgiveness. It's very easy for us to talk about forgiveness when nothing of this nature has been done against us personally and to members of our extended family that we have to come in contact with every day. But whenever it happens to us, I imagine that we might be feeling quite a bit differently. We are familiar with the statements that the young man's mother made to the media afterwards, stating that yes, we can forgive, but we are not to forget and just wash over the things that have been done wrong. She's calling for reforms in the justice system and reforms all around, because we know that when the crime was committed, she did not go to jail like everybody else would normally go. It seems as though everything was done to grant an easing of the penalty of the justice system. And as Christians, we're struggling with this. We're struggling with I guess you would say, the outrage of it all, and with the admonishment of Jesus to forgive our brothers and sisters. In the back of our mind, we hate to hear Peter call up, Lord, how many times do we need to forgive? We really don't want to entertain that. We don't want to hear that at all right now. 70 times 7. That just don't make no sense. That's what we're thinking. But we must understand that forgiveness is not about letting the offenders off the hook. It's not about just giving them a blank pass and we're all acting collectively like nothing has ever happened. We can and should still hold others accountable for their actions or lack of actions, so that healing can take place personally and corporately, so that personal growth can take place, and communal growth can take place. And for the person who has wronged the other can reflect upon actions so that they too can grow. But if we operate in this mindset of just forgive and forget and try not to ever bring it up again, imagine how many casualties will be lost by the wayside. The victimizers will be lost because they will never learn unless God makes a move and speaks to them and the Holy Spirit convicts them. Imagine all of the victims out there who have been urged, oh, you must just forgive them and pray for them and just let's try and move on in life. We know what that feels like in church. We're used to being urged to forgive, cover it up, put a lid on it, and keep it moving. And sometimes that causes, many times, almost every time, it causes way more harm than us dealing with the issues at hand. Forgiveness is not letting the offense recur again and again. We don't have to tolerate, nor should we keep ourselves open to lack of respect or any form of abuse. Forgiveness does not mean that we have to revert to being the victim. Forgiveness is not saying what you did is okay, so go ahead and walk all over me. Nor is it playing the martyr, enjoying the performance of forgiving people because it perpetuates the victim role. Forgiveness is not the same thing as reconciling. We can forgive someone even if we never can get along with he or she again. Forgiveness is a process, not an event. It's not a one-off. I imagine the young man, he might feel a certain different way today or tomorrow, who knows? That's a natural thing. Anybody can go through. But it's not a one-time event. It might take time to work through our emotional problems. It seems as though he has worked through these things faster than the greater public. It seems like he had to make this shift on his own so that he can move forward in life and not be burdened down by some things. Have you ever found yourself unwilling to forgive somebody, but you keep doing the same old things, experiencing the same angst and anxiety and anger? You keep feeling tired all day, every day, but then somebody says, why don't you just forgive them? And somehow or another you do this stupid thing of actually forgiving them, and all of a sudden you wake up and you feel a little bit better. Amen. Holding on to anger, holding on to resentment, and not granting forgiveness has a bodily effect on you. It has a psychological effect on you. Also a spiritual effect. Doesn't the Bible admonish us, forgive so that we too can be what? Yes. In the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our debtors as we forgive who? Therefore, it might take time for us to work through the emotional challenges before we can truly forgive. But as soon as we can, we should decide to forgive. But it's probably not going to happen right after tragedy. A murder, a divorce, terrible argument, disrespect publicly, privately, somebody lying on you. It may not come right at that time. We have to forgive every time. If we find ourselves constantly forgiving, though, we might need to take a look at the dance we are doing with the other person that sets up the environment that forgiveness is necessary every other minute. It seems like they are abusing what Peter asked Jesus and the response that was given. Because they know that they will be forgiven, they're going to continually do what they want to do. Have you ever met anybody like that? They know that you're going to give them a pass. They know that you're going to forgive them. They know that they can use you like a Catholic priest, if you will. Father, forgive me for I have sinned. Y'all laughing, but it's kind of, it is kind of funny, I guess. It's even more funny when I look at our movies and all the TV shows. Whenever there's a gangster out there or a mobster, usually they are white. In our pictures, usually they're going to the Father and asking for forgiveness, absolving them of whatever so they can go on and continue on whatever. I have not seen that same use of forgiveness and abuse of this cycle portrayed on film with black characters. That just popped out to me when y'all started chuckling about it. Forgiveness forgetting now does not mean denying reality or ignoring repeated offenses. Some people are obnoxious, mean-spirited, apathetic, or unreliable. You would be a fool to ever ask that person who you asked for a ride to work on Monday and they showed up no time to ask them for another ride on Tuesday and Wednesday. But we know that sometimes it's easy for us to move on and gloss over things if you have been caught in a cycle of abuse. If all you know is pain and suffering, it's difficult. We know that if these people keep doing these things, we know that they're never going to change. We need to change the way that we respond to them and quit expecting them to be different. That right there is a massive statement. Imagine if we were to practice this in our daily lives. If we understood that some people are just going to do what they're going to do because of a certain place that they are in life and a certain amount of growth has taken place, and you've probably outgrown them. Once you have an understanding of how somebody is, you can deal with them at that level. And they no longer have power over you to anger you, because you understand that they're dealing with some challenges. You understand that he might shoot you if you go around there, so you ain't going to go over there. And you understand that they will never show up on time to take you to work, and so you're not going to call them. It's important for us to stop expecting things to be different without us changing how we respond to things. If those individuals do not repent, we still have to forgive them. If you've ever had any experiences with anything in life where you've extended forgiveness and they were still unrepentant, in the moment you might feel like, oh, this. You might feel all upset inside because of how they have just spit on the olive branch that you've extended to them. Frustrated beyond means. Because it seems as though they have not, they don't know just how much it took for you to grant them that forgiveness. But even if they never ask for forgiveness, we still need to forgive. We should memorize and repeat all over and over daily that forgiveness is about our attitude and not their actions. Many times you don't have to tell the other person that you've forgiven them in order for you to extend forgiveness. Self-righteously announcing our gracious forgiveness to someone who has not asked to be forgiven can be very manipulative to make them feel guilty. You ever been in that situation on the receiving end of being manipulated? That's called spiritual manipulation, also known as another form of abuse. Many of us have been victimized by that there. If you've been a Christian of any length of time, if you've been a Christian greater than 30 days, you've experienced that. Especially if you are a third and fourth generation Christian of any denomination. It's also a form of pride. Withholding forgiveness is a refusal to let go of perceived power. We can feel powerful when the offender is in need of forgiveness and they approach us seeking our forgiveness. And we refuse to grant them that forgiveness. We feel like we've got the keys to that jail and we're going to keep them in solitary confinement as long as we can, because we feel stronger. We feel our righteous rage is being affirmed daily. And so when we see them and we see the plaintive look on their face and the spirit of remorse that drapes them, many of us are guilty of just riding that wave at their expense. But we are foolishly doing it. Because when we don't grant forgiveness, guess who's not being forgiven? Many times, the situation is reversed somewhere down the line, and you can reflect on the times when you held somebody hostage for not forgiving them, and you feel really needy about it. You have to ask for forgiveness for doing that to them. We may fear going back to being powerless if we forgive, but forgiving is not becoming powerless. Forgiving someone is not giving up power in any way, shape, or form. Not at all. Jesus would never ask us to forgive somebody if he knew that it would work against us spiritually and emotionally. We might have to forgive more than the said action If it were a divorce, we might have to forgive more than just the divorce. If it were somebody speaking ill against you behind your back, we might have to forgive more than that. But it still doesn't matter. Forgiveness is forgiveness. If you're going to forgive the whole way. It makes no sense to give at 50% or be selective in your forgiving. Many times we might forgive too quickly to avoid the pain or to manipulate the situation. That's a real thing. If you have not had time to process the emotions and the anger that you're dealing with, how do you think you can ever heal and grow if you just want to put a Christianity cap on it, if you will, paint it over and make it look like something all good that Jesus done blessed and baptized in the blood? And you could go along in life acting like you were okay. How you doing today, sister? Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. All about knowing that you were upset, cursing somebody out on the inside after they done got done talking to you. Many times we publicly profess that we've forgiven them, but at the same time, Jack, no doubt, strikes me. I don't know what they. At the same time, we're living a bipolar existence. We know about that kind of life right here in church. I can go down the street to a colleague's church, it's over there. I go up the road to a Catholic church, it's over there. I go down the street to Episcopalian, Baptist, it don't matter. Christianity is full of people forgiving people on the surface and at the same time being all angry and upset on the inside. They're burning up from the inside. And you wonder why they have a short fuse. And then they say, oh, you got to forgive me, brother. It's been a long week. You wonder why they seem to be chronically ill, always upset, always coming into contention with everybody around them. And it's always somebody else. Because we are forgiving too quickly, we don't give our time selves to deal with the emotional turmoil that's been generated by said action against us. We don't want to look at the ugliness of the crime or the pain, the ripple effects that it will have. I don't know what David was thinking when he didn't correct his son after raping his daughter. I'm sure that he had some words for him. I don't know, but the Bible doesn't show me what David did about it. At all. I want to give my man the benefit of a doubt. But if I got to go on just what the Bible is telling me, and it told me a whole bunch of dirty details about how the situation was handled and came to pass, it left out a great deal in that whole passage. Also, seemingly trying to move on without even addressing the issue is doing way more harm than you could ever imagine. Acting as though something has never happened is the most foolhardy thing we as people on this earth have ever done. We have these folks known as Holocaust deniers, slavery deniers. We want to be quick to say, you know what, y'all was selling each other into slavery. What y'all upset about? Gosh. Many times we are too often in the midst of the turmoil after a divorce or some wrong that's been done against us, and we desperately look for a quick fix to make it all go away. Some want to hurry up and make it end so they can go. They want to cover it up, and we have to be careful, though, in moving so quickly to do these things that we do not simply cover up our wounds and retard the healing process. We have all experienced being pressured into forgiving. We've been pressured into providing false forgiveness. I remember when I was younger, and I've been guilty of this. Harper, you need to apologize. You need to forgive them for doing that to you. It's so easy as a parent to intervene in the conflict between your children when one of them has just done something foolish. Usually they smack somebody upside the head. And we expect that the other person to keep peace in the household temporarily now should extend forgiveness to them. Now that's just a small microcosm of what we're doing in our adult life. Many times we'll go to our brothers and sisters or our friends at work, girl, you need to forgive him and just keep it moving. And we bow to public peer pressure many times. And we do the same thing like the people professing forgiveness. That's the same thing. You're just saying, oh, I forgive you. And it took all kind of work and effort to keep your face straight. But on the inside, you're dying on the inside. Unfortunately, people inside religious organizations do this the most. Untold pain and suffering has come about because of it. Usually it's always revolving around somebody stealing money from the church, or somebody abusing somebody in the church, physically abusing or sexually abusing somebody, or manipulating somebody. We want to be quick to say, we feel so sorry for it. We're giving all these platitudes. But we're rarely ever trying to empathize. And the folks who've been traumatized, they already been kicked out and ushered away because of the lack of support present in the place. But all of a sudden, we're here trying to console somebody else. And in our consoling, we are either unwittingly or intentionally admonishing them to speed up and forgive them so that we can decide it's the next board meeting and keep it moving. We want to force reconciliation without giving time for healing, without even preparing the environment for healing to take place. Honest, hard conversations must be held about it. When we feel obligated to forgive just so others will still like us or accept us or not think badly of us, it's not true forgiveness. It's a performance to avoid rejection. Give yourself permission to do it right. Remember that God loves you despite what everybody else and their mama got to say. Remember, all you can offer is what you can genuinely give. Maybe all you got today for them is, you know what, I want to forgive you, but right now I'm not in the headspace to do that. Let that thing stay pending. Pending. All I got for you right now is I'll take it under consideration. I ain't forgot what you did. Stand bold and look around. Did everybody hear what you said? I ain't forgot. I'm still trying to do it like Jesus did it. Trying to give you 70 punch 70, however. You at 69 right now. You're not about to get that 70. We can discuss this at a later date after I've worked through some things. You think Jesus is going to look at you crazy for that? He ain't. He will not. But what you must know and understand, that you are not wrong for resisting being pressured to forgive somebody and to move on and to forget. You are not wrong. Nor will you ever be wrong. On the same hand, we cannot stand in judgment of a young man who wants to forgive the killer of his brother. He said it many times. This is what my brother would want. Who else would know the desires of a brother other than the brother? My parents don't know what my brother would want. Like I know what my brother would want. We can't have this and not expect that. Christianity and the gospel is a messy business. You're going to get dirty. Feelings going to get hurt. Misunderstandings will abound. But yet amongst all of that, forgiveness is the only common thread in there that will help bring about some stability. He never said that forgiveness will make it all right today, tomorrow. It will make it okay, tolerable for you to deal with in time. I've been in churches where they sit on the same row with somebody who's been gone to jail for robbing the person next to them. I've been in places where they've been convicted for beating somebody down, sitting on the same pew. Tension everywhere, palpable. It's wild. But it's only allowed to exist when we as brothers and sisters, let's just put it like it's cohabitants on this place called Earth, refuse to discuss things, refuse to acknowledge our feelings about how we're feeling towards one another. We've got to do it. Forgiveness don't mean forgetting. Please remember that. It's normal for memories to be triggered in the future. You go somewhere, that's why folks leave church, honestly. They don't want to show up and walk through the doors. They don't want to stand in the lobby there when they had somebody over there that's come and spiritually shame them. They don't want to come up here down for prayer anymore because this is where they were told that they had to do all these, this and that and the other before they could get baptized. They don't want to go to these places anymore because they were told they got to go through this litany of things. At the same time, they know full well that the person talking to them is hypocrite number one. You know what it's like to have a memory come back as though it was just last second. Smells, temperature, conversations, people. You might all of a sudden break into a cold sweat because you thought that brother or sister who used to beat your hips is around the corner and you seen their shadow. You heard the way their feet was clicking down the hall. That's a real thing. But many times we are not aware of the trauma that our brothers and sisters next to us have experienced. And so we are not equipped to adequately support them when they're experiencing these traumatic flashbacks. We want to be quick to help them resolve it. All you need to do is this. Be quick to hush your mouth, sit there, and do the ministry of presence. When people die, many times I don't know what to say.
Amen.
I know if somebody dies in my family, there ain't much you can tell me. The best thing you can do is show up and look at me. And go about solving things that are readily apparent to you. That's it. You don't got to say nothing to make life easier for somebody in your sphere of influence. Forgiveness starts with a mental choice, a mental decision that we are going to begin working on this process. Reconciling these conflicting emotions on the inside, trying to balance out why the scales of justice is leaning that way, while Jesus is asking for us to forgive over here on this way. And we've got to figure out how we're going to bring these two things into alignment. But they are not in opposition to each other, church family. Justice can be rendered, and forgiveness can be extended, and God can still be glorified, and people can move forward in life. It's not going to be clean. I'm not saying there are not going to be no bodies or feelings are lost along the way. But there can be restoration in time. I'm not calling for immediate turnaround and doing things different. But I am saying that we must make the effort. When Jesus came and died on the cross for us, man, he got a whole lot of ill will towards us if he chose to have it. We want to live a life like Jesus. We forget that Jesus was a human being. There are times when I'm sure that Jesus got angry, when his feelings were hurt. On the cross, you don't think he was lying down there all Gandhi-ish, like taking them nails, getting whipped. If he was a man, I don't know a single man or woman who will take such abuse. Everybody, the Lord is coming again, but he's coming back for a balanced set of reality thinking and operating Christians. That just simply means let's not take things to an extreme and expect perfection. We are born and shaped in iniquity, blessed with the gift of grace and forgiveness. And all we have to do is just ask the Lord to help us live life according to his will. That's why he came and died for us, because he knows we're going to make mistakes. And he knows that in order for us to get it right, we're going to mess up. And it's all a daily moment by moment process of Christian growth. Growth, not an end game, growth. That means you're going to be successful and you're going to be unsuccessful all the time. Jesus is aware of that. You must be aware of that and be comfortable existing in that duality. Don't be pressured to forgive in your time. Don't be pressured to just move on and cover things up. Remember, memory is what allows us to make better choices in the future. History repeats itself, for better or for worse. With knowledge, with memory, we can be equipped to handle it when it repeats. With patience and a forgiving spirit, or at least the idea, or we're entertaining the concept of forgiving somebody, we can make it through. I'm going to make one appeal. If you need God to help you do better at extending forgiveness, you just stand right where you are. We just need Him to extend us some more strength to help us hold our resolve at times to work out this process. Lord, you see us. We ain't perfect. We are not perfect at all, Father. We know that people will mess us up. We're going to feel angry. Many times we don't want to give them nothing. Lord, we're asking that you would help us extend forgiveness to them. Remind us, Lord, that although you have called us to forgive as we have forgiven you, that you're not admonishing us to do it instantaneously, disingenuously, Lord. Remind us that we have to forgive in our time so they can be genuine and that we can experience the full benefit of freedom from letting some things go. Most of all, Lord, save us when you come again. Do what you must. In Jesus Christ's name, let everybody say amen.